dear colleagues, distinguished delegates, dear Maltese co-presidency, chère co-présidence mauritanienne. It's really a pleasure to join you today in Malta. Thank you so much for hosting us. I'm actually here on behalf of Ms. Alessandra Sensi, who's head of sector, well, who many of you know, who's head of sector for Environment, Green and Blue Economy at the Secretariat of the Union for the Mediterranean. My name is Adriana Salazar, and I support very specifically the UfM's Sustainable Blue Economy dossier. And today I'll share a bit of a snapshot, let's say, on the UfM Ministerial, 2021 UfM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy and the roadmap for its implementation. So where we stand and to share a bit of an outlook of where we're headed. So, I don't know if, okay. So many of you are aware, of course, but maybe I think it's good to just share a bit of a couple of words on who we are and what we do. So the UfM is an intergovernmental organization which brings together 43 member countries, all of the member states of the European Union, plus 16 countries from the south and the east of the basin, so from Finland all the way to the north, to Mauritania to the south, including Turkey, Palestine, Israel, Jordan, to the east of the basin, and including also most of the Balkan countries, with the mandate, the mission to promote regional cooperation, dialogue, stability, integration, and sustainable development at regional, so at Euro-Mediterranean level. We are the only Euro-Mediterranean intergovernmental organization bringing together all of the countries of the EU plus the countries of the south and the east of the Mediterranean basin to work together according to a principle of equal footing, which is of course central to our mandate. Our work is steered by a dual co-presidency, steered by the EU to the north and currently by the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan to the south of the basin, and we're also supported by a secretariat based in Barcelona. To give you just a little bit more insights on how we work, how we implement our mandate, we do so through what we call the approach of the 3 Ps. So we are, first and foremost, a high-level political forum, a dialogue of political dialogue, which takes the form, as you know, of ministerial declarations across many areas. Of course, the key ministerial declaration that is relevant to us today is the 2021 UfM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy, which then the countries, of course, together with a wide range of partners and steered by the co-presidency, by the UfM co-presidency and supported by the Secretariat, then work together to implement. The second P refers to our multi-stakeholder regional dialogue platforms. In the case of Sustainable Blue Economy, this takes the form of our working group on Sustainable Blue Economy, comprised of national focal points and a wide range of observers and stakeholders. And the third P makes a reference to projects with direct impacts on the citizens of the region. It's important to note that we don't, let's say, implement projects directly. We are not an implementing agency. We do not disperse funds directly, but we do support projects in a number of ways, notably through what we call the UfM's labeling process. So when a UfM project is labeled by the 43 countries of the UfM, in fact, at the level of what we call the senior officials of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, this means that the project receives, let's say, the political blessing by the 43 with the political backing that implies. And it also means that a project will then receive, let's say, technical assistance up to a certain point, guidance and fundraising support. And these are projects that are deemed to be by the 43 countries of specific, let's say, strategic importance, which meet a number of criteria, for instance, in terms of north-south, of course, partners involved in the project, in terms of the potential for replicability and scaling up, and so on. And another, I would say, central aspect of the UfM's mandate under this P is, let's say, our support to the rationalization, convergence, coordination, channeling at regional level of efforts and of technical and financial resources. This is an aspect of our work that's, let's say, not obvious when it's there, but it's certainly very obvious when it's not there. And in a way also linked to this stream of work, an approach which is also at the heart of the UfM's mandate is the support, let's say, when and as appropriate, to the opening, the expansion, the extension of EU-led processes, initiatives, funding programs to countries, partners and stakeholders from the south and the east of the basin, where of course financing needs, capacity building needs are greater. And so in terms of the relevant policy framework, 2021 was really an exceptional year at the UfM with the strengthening and renewal of commitments across a number of key areas. namely 2 key ministerial declarations were adopted, the 2021 UfM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy and the 2021 Ministerial on Environment and Climate Action, adopted in October of the same year. What's important to keep in mind here is that, let's say, taken together, these 2 important policy instruments mark the unequivocal will and agreement of the countries of the UfM to work together, to cooperate closely to the benefit of the entire Mediterranean basin in the face of shared and transboundary challenges in order to transition towards climate neutral, green and blue circular economies, fully integrating circularity, fully integrating sustainable consumption and production, the needs of the clean and renewable energy transition, of course, the decarbonization of key blue economy sectors, and this also naturally within the overall context of post-pandemic recovery efforts in the region. And so, at the heart, so building on, let's say, the first UfM Ministerial Declaration on Sustainable Economy, dating of 2015, and aligning with key EU regional and international environmental and climate commitments, including, of course, the Green Deal, the Paris Agreement, the SDGs, naturally the Barcelona Convention for the Protection of the Mediterranean Sea against Pollution, the new EU Agenda for the Mediterranean, and maybe most directly or most intimately with the 2021 EC Communication for a New Approach Towards the Sustainable Blue Economy. The adoption of the 2021 UfM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy is a landmark effort and achievement in the region, as it strengthens and expands in both depth and scope the joint priority areas of action, let's say, agreed by the countries to 10, which you see here. I just want to link very briefly, but importantly, with the WestMED initiative. The Ministerial indeed recognizes the WestMED initiative as a key successful example of cooperation and as a catalyst for the development of the sustainable blue economy in the Mediterranean. Historically, and in the framework of the follow-up of the first UfM Ministerial on Blue Economy of 2015, the UfM Sustainable Blue Economy dossier and agenda and the WestMED initiative have been, let's say, deeply linked. Our continued close cooperation is an essential piece of the puzzle in terms of advancing together and supporting the sustainable development of the sectors and activities of the blue economy in the Western Mediterranean and beyond. Our areas of concrete cooperation are many. From the different, let's say, WestMed technical groups that we'll hear from today, the WestMed Maritime Clusters Alliance, including also our support, as I was hinting at earlier, to the expansion, to the opening, when and as appropriate, of successful WestMed initiatives to the benefit of the wider Mediterranean. And here I think of the MSP Community of Practice, which has been established recently and which is taking its first steps, so that the UfM has certainly been supporting, and we're particularly also interested in looking at how we can find eventually an intelligent, let's say, articulation with the UfM Working Group on Blue Economy so as to ensure a good flow of information and a mainstreaming, let's say, through the UfM focal points on blue economy. And I'm thinking also of the support that we provided to the recent MFAF calls on maritime clusters in terms of helping to establish, let's say, balanced North consortia with partners from the north and the south of the basin. And so we're extremely confident in the opportunities in the framework of the Ministerial and the Roadmap and the implementation of the Roadmap that our continued close coordination with the WestMed initiative will continue to yield. And finally, on this slide, I just want to indeed welcome, of course, deeply welcome the WestMed Ministerial Declaration, which will be approved tomorrow, as a prime example of successful cooperation and dialogue on sustainable blue economy, and as an important step forward in advancing together to the benefit of our shared region for the sustainable development of the blue economy in the Western Mediterranean and beyond. And so, indeed, the second UfM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy and the WestMed Ministerial are fully aligned, signaling once more our synchronicity and alignment. The 10 ministerial priorities that you see here are indeed addressed in the WestMed Ministerial. And so, just to say, and this is a crucial point, of course we have a very ambitious second UfM Minister on Sustainable Blue Economy, and since a little more than a year, I would say, the countries, so the countries as represented, namely in the UfM Working Group on Blue Economy, with the support of the co-presidency, with the support of the UfM Secretariat, together with a wide range of partners, have been working together to develop the roadmap for the implementation of the 2021 Ministerial. So this is a very rich document. It's publicly available. I invite you to download it, to visit it here at this website. It was given the green light, let's say the first advanced draft was given the green light by the countries, as I was saying a little bit over a year ago. It has been welcomed as a landmark document in the region. It provides an in-depth overview and analysis of the joint needs, gaps, and opportunities for future support, funding, and implementation for each of the 10 ministerial priorities, and of course, points at potential avenues for future cooperation, promising pathways, processes, and actions that can be indeed launched and scale up in the short, medium, and longer term. So this is indeed our blueprint, and it's also supported by an easy-to-handle, let's say, results-based monitoring, reporting, and evaluation system, which I'll touch on a little bit later. And so, indeed, the 10 ministerial priorities remain, but the countries of the UfM, as represented in the UfM Working Group on Blue Economy, indeed agreed to begin working together on 3 key priority areas deemed of particular strategic importance. So the diversification of small ports and marinas beyond transport. So in terms of fostering the ability of ports to adopt fully circular models, and looking, of course, also at the potential across the Mediterranean, which I don't need to remind you of small ports. The second, let's say, axis focuses on boosting innovation ecosystems for sustainable blue economy value chains in the Mediterranean. And the third axis focuses on supporting MSP as an overall, let's say, sectoral enabler, of course, key for the implementation of the 10 ministerial priorities. And these 3 axes are supported by a, let's say, cross-cutting axis focusing on blue skills, careers, and jobs, and capacity building. And so, indeed, the countries have been working together in the framework of the UfM Working Group to begin concretely, let's say, working on these 3 short-term priorities. We, for instance, organized not so long ago, I think in the back-to-back with the 12th UfM Working Group on Blue Economy, which took place in Aqaba in Jordan, a capacity building session, training session on project development associated to EU funding programs, access EU funding for your Blue Economy project. We also organized a webinar on financing innovation ecosystems for the Mediterranean sustainable blue economy, local actors, opportunities, and challenges, which was, I have to say, quite a success. It brought together innovative startups, venture capitalists, incubators, policymakers, as well as IFIs, namely the EBRD, and around 100 participants and stakeholders to exchange on their experiences and challenges in terms of harnessing sustainable finance and support at local level to foster innovation ecosystems in the sectors and activities of the Med Sustainable Blue Economy, and focusing in particular in the needs of the southern and the eastern shores of the basin. As I pointed out earlier, in terms of small ports and marinas, we have supported in the context of the recent MFAF calls on clusters, the establishment of, let's say, balanced consortia. And on MSP, as I also hinted at, we have been focusing very much on the recently launched MSP community of practice, building on the successful work of the WestMED initiative on MSP, which will be open to the wider Mediterranean. So these are, let's say, this is how the countries have been advancing, let's say, on these 3 priority areas in the short term. And so I just wanted to hint at the areas, let's say, that we are now looking at, let's say, more towards the mid to longer term. I just want to say that this is very much up for discussion. These are 3 potential areas that were, let's say, suggested at the last UfM Working Group on Blue Economy and will be further discussed, decided on at the next one, which will take place in Barcelona at UfM headquarters on the 11th of October. So we may want to focus on, let's say, boosting, supporting, achieving better governance for sustainable coastal and maritime tourism in cooperation with key historical partners of the UfM, Interreg Euromed, the World Tourism Organization, with which we have signed an MOU, CPRM, etc. We may also want to focus We may also want to focus on scaling up good practices on sustainable food value chains in cooperation of the FAO and the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean, among other partners. And we may want to organize a webinar to promote proper planning of marine renewable energies within a multi-use approach to ecosystem-based MSP. But as I say, these are very much potential areas up for discussion and which will be decided at the next working group. So, as Honourable Minister Farrugia was pointing at, as of course Ms. Viceva was pointing at, finance here is the key, let's say, ingredient. We know that public funds alone will not suffice to meet the ambitious commitments that we have set for ourselves in the 2021 UfM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy and the WestMED Ministerial. So on this is an area that the UfM has been focusing on very strongly as a key, of course, enabler that cuts across all 10 UfM ministerial priorities. In 2022, we organized, with the support of DG Mare, a conference on investing in the first UfM conference on investing in a sustainable economy in the Mediterranean, which brought together financial institutions, banks, multilateral and national, private investors, UfM country and industry representatives to precisely discuss how we can better align and mobilize financial flows towards the sustainable blue economy sectors and activities prioritized by the countries themselves, and especially in the south and the east of the basin. And so to discuss on how we can better encourage investments in and funding of blue economy projects and initiatives, providing an overview of viable investment opportunities, exchanging on the enabling conditions required to attract investments on sustainable economy in the Mediterranean, and drawing also the participation of national and local banks. And sharing, of course, successful experiences and cases from different regions and different parts of the basin. And so, just to close very briefly, indeed, also as the Commission was pointing at, I'll close just in 1 minute because I think this is maybe an important point to just add a couple of words on, as it has been already introduced also yesterday at the WestMED Steering Committee. Indeed, recognizing the value and potential of the sectors and activities of the sustainable blue economy in the Mediterranean and of the related environmental and climate-related challenges, the UfM, DG Mare, EBRD, EIB, AFD, the French Development Agency, donor countries, for the moment Spain, Sweden, France, and initially 3 beneficiary partners, namely Morocco, Egypt, and Jordan, have intensified efforts in the last months to establish a Blue Mediterranean Partnership, or Fund. This was announced at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. The idea is to establish the Blue Mediterranean Partnership as a platform to coordinate interventions and leverage financial resources from implementing organizations, from beneficiary partners, from donor partners, to enable sustainable blue economy investments, especially in non-EU Mediterranean countries, with an initial focus on the 3 beneficiary partners. But the idea is to eventually open, of course, the fund to other beneficiary countries across the Mediterranean. The BMP seeks to act as a key conduit, let's say, to unlock and mobilize public and private financing by providing dedicated support in the form of technical assistance and enabling investments with the potential to leverage additional private sector funds. The BMP is expected to be operative in early 2024. And maybe just in the interest of time, the memorandum of understanding that we recently signed with the World Ocean Council, and in the framework, of course, in the framework of the UfM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy, and in the framework of the WestMED Initiative, has already been hinted at. So in the interest of time, I won't go in depth. Maybe here just to say that, just to provide a few more details on the results-based monitoring, reporting, and evaluation system of the roadmap. This is essential, of course, to measure progress over time. These slides will be shared. Maybe in the interest of time, I won't go any deeper. And I'll just close here. You have a few key dates. The next UfM Working Group on Blue Economy will take place on the 11th of October in Barcelona. And do please stay tuned for the second UfM Stakeholder Conference on Sustainable Blue Economy, due to take place in early 2024 in Greece. And so, Mediterranean Blue Economy Stakeholder Platform, key hub for all things UfM and sustainable blue economy. Please do subscribe, and if you want to stay up to date, notably on the second UfM Stakeholder Conference, this is the place to go. And so I'll stop here. Thank you so much.